Yo, what's happening people? I'm Era from EraTheProducer.com and welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to be taking a look at the newest update to the Arturia effects collection, which contains 4 brand new plugins as well as a load of other really useful plugins too. So let's not waste any more time and get straight into it. So this collection of plugins is literally crazy. Altogether there's 26 plugins that come with this bundle, but I'm not going to be talking about all of them today because the video would literally be about an hour long. I'm going to go over the 4 newer plugins in a bit more detail, then I'll pick some of my favourite plugins from the rest of the bundle too. If you do want to check these plugins out for yourself, then I'll leave a link to Arturia's website in the video description. The price is going to vary depending on whether or not you had the previous version of the effects collection, and I do think there's discounts available for people that own other Arturia products too. So just head over to the website, log in and see what the price is for you. The first plugin from the new bunch is lofi. For some of you this plugin's not actually going to be new because Arturia were giving this plugin away for free a couple of months ago. I feel like a lot of producers are using some sort of tapey, noisy, analog emulator plugin, whether it's RC20, Isotope Vinyl or one of the others that are on the market. But I think it's safe to say that lofi is definitely my new go-to plugin for this category. The plugin itself is actually based on a Mellotron synthesizer and the noises that it makes while playing sounds. With the Mellotron being a tape-based synth, it has a lot of moving parts, like the wheel that allows all the mechanical elements to work, the springs from the tapes themselves, and of course the staticky noise that's produced from those tapes. And lofi basically emulates the noises from the Mellotron and adds a few more features too. The plugin split into 3 sections, the first of which is the preamp section. From here you can control the amount of drive that's added to the sound, the tone of the actual sound itself, and you can also add noise. In the middle we have the tape section where you can add some tape effects like wow and flutter, as well as adding wear and mechanical sounds. Then on the right hand side we have the output section, which allows you to add high or low pass filters, as well as controlling the overall volume of the output audio. In between the last 2 sections you'll also see that we have this wheel graphic, which is going to allow you to add tape stops. Below this wheel you have a drop down menu that can control the speed of the tape stop, and then next to this we have a play and pause button. The plugin comes with a good few presets that I'll go over in a minute, but I feel like I get the most out of this plugin when I leave everything default and dial the settings in myself. I'm now going to take some stems from the Sinister sample pack from Patent Sounds to show you how the plugin works, as well as demo some of the presets. If you like the sound of these samples, then they can be downloaded for free too. Just go and check the links in the video description. Next up I'm going to be going over the dist tube culture. This distortion plugin is based on the Culture Vulture, a harmonic tube distortion effect by Fermionic. It shares a similar GUI to the original rack unit and it's perfect for creative distortion effects. Over on the left we have all the regular controls that you'd expect to see on a distortion plugin. The drive's going to control how much distortion is being introduced to the signal. The bias setting, which is measured in milliamps, is going to control how much voltage is going through the tubes. And next to this we have the function dial that has 4 settings. The T stands for triode mode, and then we have 3 different pentode functions, with 1 being the most subtle and 3 being the most aggressive. Then below this is a switch that can be toggled between off, air and presence, and this is going to allow you to enhance some of the higher end frequencies. Then over on the right side we have output and mix knobs, which are going to do exactly what you think they would. Like all of Arturia's newer software, this plugin also has an advanced tab where you can add some filtering to the input signal and the output signal. The input filter can be switched between stereo, mid and side. We then have 2 bands to the actual filter itself, and then lastly we have a knob that can be switched between gate and compression. Then the output filter gives us a high and low pass, with this middle knob being a tilt filter. So that's how the plugin works. Now let's take a listen to how it actually sounds. Staying with distortion, the next new effect added is the Dist Op-Amp 21. This amplifier and distortion unit is based on the SansAmp pedal by Tech 21, and it's perfect for bus and send distortion. You can slap this on your guitar, bass or drum buses to add some nice crunch to the sound. On first glance, you'll see that this plugin's quite simple, with the main controls consisting of a drive knob, which is going to determine how much distortion's being applied, a presence knob, which is going to add some distortion to the higher end frequencies. This high knob's going to introduce some brightness to your signal, and then again we have an output and dry wet knob, which are going to do exactly what you think they would. The mode section is where you can select from different preamp types, all of which have different filters applied, giving each one a different tone. The character section is going to allow you to enable or disable these buttons, each of which have their own functions assigned to them. The first 2 buttons are going to boost the mid-range, with the first one being more subtle and the second one being more aggressive. This third button is going to allow more of the low-end signal to pass through. This 4th button is going to clean up the overdrive effect, making it sound less harsh. This 5th button, which looks a bit like a sun, is going to introduce some brightness by boosting the higher frequencies. Then the last 2 buttons are going to simulate different mic placements, with the first one being placed at the edge of the speaker and the last one being placed closer to the speaker. Inside the advanced section of this plugin, we again have a pre-drive filter that's going to allow us to go from stereo to mid or side, and we then have a really simple filter consisting of 2 bands. Then over on the right hand side we have an EQ that consists of 3 bands, and this can be used for either post-drive or pre-drive. So I'm going to use that same guitar sample to show you some of the features. I'm then going to drag in a drum loop so you can hear how it sounds on drums too. The last new addition to the effects collection is called EFX Fragments, and this is probably one of my favourite plugins from the whole bundle. This plugin is a granular effect that uses granular synthesis to take the most basic of sounds and give it a whole new character and feel. But to understand what this plugin actually does, we first need to understand what granular synthesis is. Granular synthesis basically takes your sound and splits it up into lots of tiny pieces called grains. These grains are then used in a creative way to form a totally different sound, and some of the outcomes can be really interesting. Looking at the interface, you'll see that this plugin is split up into 4 main sections. At the top of the plugin we have the buffer section, which is going to show you the incoming waveforms as well as a visual representation of what each parameter is doing to those waveforms. If you hover over the top of this section, you'll be able to change the buffer length from between an 1/8 of a bar all the way up to 4 bars. Then we also have buttons that you can use to freeze, clear and re-trigger the playhead. On the left we have the grain capture section, and this is split up into 3 different modes. The speed setting is going to set the speed of the grain capture marker, which is this yellow line in the buffer window. When this is set to 0, the grain capture marker isn't going to go anywhere. When you set it to 1, it's going to move in time with the playhead, and when you set it to 2, it's going to move twice as fast as the playhead. You can also move this into negative values, and this is just going to make everything go in reverse. To explain the offset mode, I'm just going to take the density of the grains and turn them all the way down so you can see everything a bit more clear. The offset mode is going to determine how far behind the grain capture marker is from the playhead, and this is measured in milliseconds. Then, as you probably guessed, the manual mode is going to allow you to move the grain capture marker yourself. The next section of the plugin is the grain release section, and this part of the plugin is going to be doing most of the heavy lifting. Again, this part of the plugin has 3 modes. This time we can pick from classic, texture or rhythmic. Inside the classic mode, this first knob is going to decide how often new grains are introduced. The middle knob is going to control the size of those grains, and the last knob is going to control the pitch of them. Inside the texture mode, this first knob is going to control how many layers of grains can be played at the same time. Then again we have the size and pitch knobs. Then the last mode is the rhythmic mode, where this first knob changes to a step sequencer. In order to see the step sequencer, you need to come up and drop down the advanced tab. Then each step in the sequence can play between 0 and 4 grains. Over on the right side we have an effects section, which again is split into 3 parts, the first of which is a pan section. So if I just turn this pan on, you'll see that this trajectory setting is going to allow you to pick from different shapes at which the panning is going to be moving around. We then have some controls over the rate of the pan, the randomization, the amount of panning that's applied, as well as the distance. Next we have 2 effect slots where you can choose from some of your favourite effects like distortions, delays, choruses and echoes. And of course each of these sections are going to have their own settings depending on which effect you pick. Next I'm just going to go over some of these advanced features before I show you how the plugin actually sounds. So the first 2 blocks that we have are macro 1 and 2, and these are going to be directly associated to the intensity and effects knobs. To assign these macros, you just want to hover over the blank space and make sure that the assign button's illuminated. Then all you need to do is hover over the outside of any of the knobs until these 2 arrows show up, and then you can drag up or down to assign that to each macro. Next to this we have 3 function blocks, and these are going to allow you to draw pretty much any LFO shape that you want and then assign that to each of the parameters too. To assign these, you want to do the exact same thing as the macros by hovering over the blank space and then dragging the outside of one of the parameters. Next we have the envelope follow section, which is going to allow you to control the rise and the fall of the envelope, and again this can be mapped to any setting within the plugin. Then lastly there's a step sequencer that allows you to draw in a pattern to control how much modulation is being applied to each step. So yeah, there's quite a lot going on in this plugin, so let me show you how it actually sounds. For this demonstration I've put fragments onto an instance of FL keys so you can see how much it changes even the most basic of sounds. So that's all the new additions to the effects collection. Now I'm just going to pick out some of my favourites from the rest of the bundle. I'm not going to be going over these in anywhere near as much detail because the video is already long enough as it is. The June 6 is a chorus plugin that's based on the chorus module from the Roland Juno 6 synthesizer, and it adds a really nice analog colour to your sounds. As you can see, the interface is very simple and doesn't really have too many knobs, but the sounds that you can get out of this plugin are really nice, and it's my favourite chorus plugin by far. One thing that I look for in a reverb plugin are presets that are going to add some colour and creative elements to my instruments. And that's exactly what the next plugin is going to do, and this plugin is Rev Intensity. This plugin's got all of the regular controls you'd expect to find inside a reverb, like size, decay, width and dampening, but it's the presets where this plugin really shines. The last plugin I'm going to go over in this video is called Delay Brigade. Of course, this plugin's perfect for delay effects, but it also offers up some really nice chorus effects too. Overall, this is just a really nice delay plugin, and I can definitely see myself using this one quite a lot. Now that is going to bring us to the end of today's video. This one was a lot longer than usual, so if you're still here at the end of the video, then make sure to let me know in the comments what plugin you think looks and sounds the best. I can honestly see myself using these plugins a lot, and I think my favourite out of the bunch has to be Fragments. If you'd like to check out the effects bundle, then I'm going to leave a link to Arturia's website in the video description, as well as all of the samples and MIDIs that I used in today's video. If this is your first time on the channel, then please consider hitting the subscribe button, and if you'd like to be notified every time that I drop new content, then click the bell next to it too. I've been Era, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.